Hello friends, it's Nancy from Astrology and Angel Mediums today with another pick a pile reading. So this is your opportunity to choose whichever pile you feel drawn to. So this is pile 1, pile 2, and then pile 3. So this is your opportunity. Choose whichever deck you feel drawn to for your reading, and then go check out the timestamps in the description box to go find where your reading starts. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a good one. Take care. Bye. Hello, pile number 1. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I really hope that the stuff that I talk about brings you some clarity and some verification to what's been going on in your life. So let's see what we pull for you today. I've already shuffled the cards. Let's just see what comes out. And I kind of forgot to wipe down my table, so hopefully you can't see too much of what is going on here. I think I'll pull one more. Okay. Now let's see. Do I want these? I don't want this one this way. Let's see. I think this one will be this way, actually. Okay. I think I'm going to pull all the cards that I want first, and then we'll just set everything up to see what we have overall. My hand's a little sticky, so I must have had something sticky on my table. All right, let's see what else we have. Trying not to make a crazy mess over here. Okay. I think these are all the cards I want to pull for now. And I'll pull some charms in a minute. So, very first card I have here is going to be the Ace of Cups. Now, to me, this can just be a reminder that maybe we're blocking some of the opportunities, or maybe even blocking some of our feelings about certain things, or maybe we are kind of ignoring an opportunity that has been presenting itself for us at this current time. And so there may be a little bit of a hesitation to really tune into what it is that we actually have going on, as well as how we really feel about what has been happening around us. This can also be a little bit of a disconnect from our intuition, maybe feeling a little bit distorted in the ways of what we are receptive to at this current time. Now, next to that, we also have the Eight of Cups, which is a card of emotionally moving on. It is a card of kind of emotionally withdrawing as well, like saying, okay, this is not for me. I don't really like the options that have been presented for me, especially if we have this Ace of Cups where maybe there was an opportunity, but maybe that's been something that's shifted or has changed. And now the Eight of Cups is kind of here as a reminder that it is perfectly okay for us to choose to do something else, to change up what it was that we were doing, to maybe understand that our plans are never anything that are really truly set in stone, and that things are constantly changing. And I think with the Eight of Cups, it's also really trying to put the ball back in your court. It's saying, okay, you've done what you needed to do. You looked at your options, and now it's an opportunity for you to kind of move past the limitations that you were kind of placing upon yourself based off of what you thought needed to happen with your situation or in your life. Now, next to that, we have the Eight of Wands, which to me is just a reminder of once you really choose to connect to yourself a little bit more deeply with the Eight of Cups that came before it, I think it's more of a reminder of when you choose to walk away from things that are not for you, that is when you'll get your second wind. That is when you will receive this divine inspiration to kind of move into the next thing. This is when you're going to feel this sense of things finally moving in the direction that you would like for them to. The other thing with the Eight of Wands is that it is very much like that opportunity to kind of try something again, to kind of muster up the courage to do something that feels a little bit more aligned with yourself, that feels more inspired, that allows you to have that movement, that momentum, that passion, that drive. And I know for a lot of people in the last few weeks, especially, it seems like a lot of us are very tired, or, we're finally feeling like we're kind of coming out of a funk or a fog, and we can finally start to see things actually shifting, actually like moving. And we're starting to see a little bit more of this like push towards what it is that we want. But it really is going to require us to get very clear on what is not for us and what is not what we need or want, as well as really understanding that not every opportunity is something that we need to kind of jump on. Now, I thought it was interesting because this is one of the extra cards that comes in this deck. Now, the Fountain typically, I think, really just talks about like, the well within. And I think one of the other decks that I have also has a card that's a very similar kind of energy. With this being reversed is that I think that maybe this is kind of asking us to really look within. Not everything that is shown to us or given to us or every opportunity is worth our efforts, is worth our, really diving into it. And so I think the Fountain, especially reversed here, is that maybe it's an invitation to kind of look within, look at what it is that's driving you, look at what it is that you really love about your life. Maybe it's an opportunity to kind of dive a little bit deeper below the surface to kind of look at, okay, maybe I've been too caught up in myself and what I think should be happening, instead of really looking at what does this mean for my life overall. And it may also be an invitation to kind of say, hey, maybe everything doesn't have to be this like big, long, deep sort of story that I can dive into. Maybe this is an invitation to kind of rise up out of the Fountain and to come away from it, and to maybe get some clarity, to use it to kind of wash away anything that you feel has been holding you back or anything that is no longer really serving you. Now, next to that, we have the Three of Cups, which to me is maybe just, again, an invitation to celebrate, to share the love, to really take some time out to be around the people that really see you, that need you. Maybe you've been too much in hermit mode and too stuck in your own kind of story right now, that it's been hard for you to take some time out to do things that you appreciate, to feel that sense of support and community with those around you. Now, to me, threes are always this like expansive, abundant, kind of like they grow things in some ways. And to me, it's also a reminder of community and connection and celebration in a lot of ways too, because we have an opportunity to not just be kind of stuck in our own story and choices and trying to find the balance between everything. I think it's very much about like, okay, now I'm ready to kind of go out into the world and see what's happening. And the Three of Cups is no different from that. It's very much about coming together, celebrating. Maybe this is an opportunity for you to kind of get with the people that love you, that see you, that support you, and being a little bit more intuitive about our choices and how you're showing up in different ways. And so I think with all these Cups cards is that maybe there's a lot of emotions that you haven't really allowed yourself to really dive into, or maybe there's been a little bit of a sense of being a little bit closed off when it comes to who it is that you're inviting into your life. And maybe you've kind of closed yourself off for some time. Now, next to that, I got the Hanged Man, which to me is really just kind of saying you need to change your perspective on certain things. This is very much about looking at what you're willing to sacrifice here, and to maybe give yourself space to understand that not everything is going to move as quickly as you may want. There may be a sense of suspension. There may be a sense of having to kind of pause in this moment before something else happens. But what I do love about the Hanged Man is that we forget is that he is essentially a willing victim. He is not here to, he's not battling this moment. He's very relaxed. He's just kind of hanging there, kind of like, all right, what can I do with this? Another thing that I really love to kind of point out when it comes to the Hanged Man is that it's an opportunity for us to change our point of view. Sometimes we get too familiar with our spaces, and so it limits how we expand our perspectives or how we view things. And I think by just maybe even hanging upside down for a second in a room that you're already familiar with, everything's going to look different. You're going to see different things, even though they're all things that you may be very familiar with or are used to, looking at them from an upside down view, it's going to, again, not just change your perspective, but also allow you to see something that maybe you didn't really see, something underneath. And I think with the Hanged Man, it's very much that kind of energy of kind of saying like, hey, there's something underneath here that you're missing out on. There's something below the surface, like with the fountain, that maybe you've been too stuck in seeing things a certain way that you're not maybe changing your perspective and you're not looking at it from a different point of view. So there's something here that maybe needs to be shifted or changed, or it may feel like a little bit of a sacrifice in some ways, especially given that we have the Eight of Cups and the Eight of Wands. I feel like both of these energies are kind of saying like there may be a little bit of this like push and pull between what it is that you thought you wanted and then also what is actually being presented to you at this time. And so there may be a little bit of this sense of, oh, is this really what I want? Is this really what I need? Is this really how it's going to feel? I know for a lot of people, transitions can be very challenging. I'm one of them. I'm not judging. But I think the biggest thing that kind of holds us back in a lot of our transitions is how we think that we are going to feel about it. And I think with these cards, they're kind of saying like, just allow yourself to kind of flow. There's a lot of water. There's a lot of like water symbolism here, a lot of blues. I think it's very much about communicating, showing up, connecting, and sharing how you're actually truly feeling about the things that are going on, instead of holding back and feeling as though there isn't an opportunity here. Even if the Hanged Man is kind of saying you may have to change your perspective about how you perceive the lack of opportunities here, because this is really about you choosing what is best for you versus trying to kind of cast a really wide net to see what catches, if that makes sense. And I think the Eight of Wands kind of being central here, it's almost saying like, this is your opportunity to just go. It's not always going to be something that feels very drastic. It's not always going to be like a big old thing. And in that, you can still celebrate those little wins. You can still celebrate the things that are shifting and changing for you. Now, for the Oracle cards, we have Divine Intervention, which is, again, just a reminder of trusting the universe and really understanding that a lot of things are maybe happening behind the scenes, like the Hanged Man, that maybe you can't see at the current moment. And right now you may be feeling a little bit like this snail, like you're like, oh, things are just not really moving as quickly as I wanted them to. Or I know for me personally, I kind of feel like, oh my gosh, it's almost June. What is happening? I haven't really accomplished any of the things that I thought I would get done this year. But again, it's more of just being present and taking your time and recognizing and realizing that even if it feels like you're just inching across the path, it's still progress. It's just not going to feel like that fast, quick, like everything's just kind of moving the way that you want. And I think it's interesting because it almost reminds me of a hurricane. So I feel like it's more of just understanding that like those bands have been hitting you, but the eye of the storm is where things are calm and then things kind of get crazy again. So I think it's more of just recognizing that you've been going through the storm, and maybe right now you're just kind of like, where is the eye? I just need a little bit of peace, and then I can kind of deal with everything else that comes. I just need that peace, and I need that kind of sense of really connecting a little bit more to myself. So I think that this is more of just recognizing that some of the things that maybe haven't worked out, the things that maybe haven't really come together the way that you anticipated, or the things that haven't really like been according to plan, so to speak, that there's a lot of this sense of we're having to just kind of do what we can in the moment to deal with whatever it is that kind of arises. And I think maybe that's why we have this Phoenix card here, where this is kind of like, you're right. You are going through it. There is an alchemical change that is maybe happening to your soul currently. It is very much about recognizing that like you've been getting burned to ash, and the phoenix rises from the ashes, but the phoenix has to endure the burning first. And so I think that the last maybe few months have been like the burning, and you're kind of feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm just a pile of ash. What am I supposed to do with this? Like nothing has really worked out the way that I thought it was going to. And now this is your opportunity to rise up. And this is maybe why we have this divine intervention, is that the things that maybe you set out to do this year or that you had kind of planned for yourself have maybe not worked out the way that you thought that they would. And excuse me, it's interesting because I was kind of like going to say like, oh, there's like a lot of throat chakra stuff here. And like my throat is over here all scratchy already. And I just started reading. So I'm like, my throat should not be sore yet from me talking. So next to that, we have karmic path, which to me can be a reminder that Saturn, especially with it being in Pisces, we're not really liking this like sense of restrictions and boundaries, especially in a sign that has this energy of being boundless. And so for a lot of us, we're having to kind of go up against different aspects of ourselves that feel very hindering and hard, and having to have this kind of energy of like, oh, I'm just trying to like not be stuck in this kind of energy. And so right now it's going to feel very much like there's all these big lessons that have been coming up, especially with this Phoenix card, where we're kind of like having to reflect on everything that we've gone through, the things that we've experienced, the challenges. And so right now we're almost like seeing the sense of like, have I learned the lesson? Have I done what I needed to do? Have I gone within and learned what was needed, so that while I am in this suspended state, I can recognize and realize the spiritual lesson in this, and understand that sacrifices or things that are removed from our lives aren't always meant to just hurt us, in the sense of that thing won't be replaced again. A lot of us, we focus on the loss, or we focus on what we don't have versus what we will gain by removing that obstacle, so to speak. And karmic path really does bring that sort of energy of really feeling like the harder you try to cling, the harder it is for you to gain and keep that control. And a lot of us are having to kind of say, okay, fine. Excuse me, fine. Here you go, universe. Take it. I surrender. You know best. I don't know what's going on here, but this is really challenging and this is really scary. And I think that's why next to that we have Seek Within, which is really about looking back within yourself, connecting back to your sovereignty, to your divinity, to your intuitive practices, to take some time out to just be like, let me prioritize what my heart needs, what my soul needs. How do I fill up my cup once more, instead of being so externally focused on everything else that's been going on? Because there has been a lot going on, not just in our day-to-day lives, but also at like a world level. There's so many frustrating aspects of being a person right now that I think a lot of us are kind of forgetting. We need to kind of take a step back and look at, what can we do within our lives to kind of accommodate or improve what is going on with us. And I think Seek Within is just kind of that reminder of, as we're going through these alchemical changes, these very challenging things that have come up for us that have felt like we're being stripped to the freaking bone. I think seeking within is more of just, okay, I have no control over anything that's going on, and that is okay. And I think that's why the affirmation for you is to let this also teach you. Let these things that feel challenging and scary and hard be something that are teaching you. Be teachable. That's what I always tell people. And that's my lifelong goal, is to just always remain teachable, to always be a student of life in so many different ways. And I think with let this also teach you is that you're getting there, and it's okay to feel like you're making mistakes. Do not put so much pressure on yourself to feel like you have to have it figured out, or that it has to look a certain way, or to have everything neatly tied up into a bow, because nothing in life is that neat. Like nothing is perfect. Nothing in nature is like that. And I think a lot of us don't give ourselves that grace of like, we are also a part of nature, and nothing in nature is perfect. We are just here trying to figure out how to exist and live in this life. So let's pull a couple of these little bones and charms. It's going to be a little loud. Okay, a lot of bones. All right, first one is this little cat's eye. And this to me is just really a reminder of clarity, of finally maybe getting this like sense of I can really see things. I'm not warping things. I'm not ignoring things. There's a sense of finally like removing those rose-colored glasses and really seeing things clearly for what they are. This can also be a reminder of trusting your intuitive gifts and really leaning back into what it is that you know, what it is that you see, what it is that you feel, and not questioning yourself so much about those things. And next to that, we have this little foot bone, which to me is just really saying you need to get up and get out of like the routines that you've been in. There is a chance to kind of be a little bit more industrious about where you're spending your time, where you're spending your efforts, what it is that you're mentally focusing on. And especially with this clarity, I think it's almost saying like you got to get clear on where you want to go, what it is that you're doing, what it is that you're prioritizing at this time, and what that means overall for you. Now, this is a turtle bone, so this can just be a reminder that progress, as slow as it may be, is still progress. And so right now it's very much about being in your life, being grounded, taking those steps, taking what you need. And I almost like always relate it back to like the tortoise and the hare, where I'm just like, you know, the hare is like, oh, I'm going and this and that. Just because you're going somewhere fast doesn't mean that you're going somewhere good. And I think with the tortoise and the hare story is that it's very much about just slow and steady will win the race. And even with the karmic path card, where it feels very much like, is this what I'm doing? Like, why is this so hard? Why are things not really working out the way that I want to? That's okay, because Saturn is a very slow moving kind of transit. It takes 30 years to kind of, you know, come back around to the same sign. And so it's very much this energy of like, you have time. You're not out of time. You can do the things that you need to do. And even if it feels like you're inching your way towards your goals, it's okay. And finally, we have a rib bone, which can just talk about restriction and protection. So it's almost like some of these things that are kind of happening, especially if Saturn is kind of aspecting your current astrological chart or your natal chart, it can feel very much like, oh, there's all these restrictions. But the thing with Saturn is that it's also protection. It feels very much like things that are being removed or things that are taken away or challenges that you may have to overcome and deal with. But it's also protection, just like a rib bone. It protects. It keeps it in, and it also protects, it keeps things out. And I think we kind of tend to forget that at times. And I feel like this is very much about, where is your breath? What is breathing life into you? What are you breathing life into? And I think that's another big lesson that tends to come with the rib bone, is that it's really a reminder of that sort of energy and kind of leaning back into that. So I hope that this made sense. If you have questions or if there's anything that you would like to add, please let me know down below. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a good one. Take care. And as always, make good choices. Hello, pile number 2. It's Nancy. So thank you so much for joining me today. Let's see what your message is today and what cards we have for you. So everything's been shuffled. Let's see what we have. King of Swords. I feel like I've been pulling this so much. The Magician reversed. The Four of Swords reversed. I feel like I've been pulling these a lot for myself too. Temperance. Yep. Here we go. The Two of Pentacles. I think those are good. Let me just make sure my microphone is still on. Okay, we're good. Sorry if you heard me tapping it. All right, let's pull all the cards that we want. All right. Let's pull this guy. Oh, goodness. So many things all the time. Okay. All right, we already got one of those. And then Vibras. Okay. I think we're just going to put these down here, actually. All right, hopefully everything is in frame. I have not checked, but hopefully everything looks pretty good. All right, let's start. So the very first card we have is the King of Swords, which to me is really a reminder that maybe you've been very focused on living in your truth, being a little bit more calculated and logical, as well as feeling a little bit more empowered to kind of show up in like what you know, what you've learned, who you are. Again, kind of really stepping into your truth. Now, this is obviously a masculine kind of energy, so it can kind of feel a little bit like you're too much in like your head, in the sense of maybe you're not really in like your feelings. And it's not like that it's a bad thing. I feel like this is more of like the higher mind and connecting a little bit more to how we're communicating, how we're connecting, as well as a reminder that it is okay for us to want a little bit more structure and connection, especially when it comes to what we're doing. Now, next up, we have the Magician reverse, which this can just tell me that maybe there's a lack of spiritual awareness. Maybe you feel like there hasn't really been a lot of ease in manifesting the things that you want for yourself. Or maybe there has been a lack of understanding everything that you already have at your disposal to utilize on your journey. The Magician reverse to me can just really talk about maybe there's been a lack of alchemy, so to speak. Maybe there's just something that's just not clicking. There's a lack of like that kind of fundamental energy of really moving, especially if you've been like, I'm cutting away from everything that's holding me back. I'm trying to just be like very like logical and rigid. And I almost feel like, sorry, this is kind of like the thing that just kind of came up in my head, was that maybe you're so focused on like the spell versus the intention. Like you're so focused on like the I got this step and I got this step and I got this step versus, okay, what is the actual intention here? What is breathing life, so to speak, into what it is that I'm trying to manifest? And where is my spiritual awareness at right now? Where have I like allowed that to be like the breath of what I'm trying to do and manifest for myself? And I think with the Magician reversed, especially behind the Four of Swords reverse, where maybe you just, again, you're like not allowing yourself to rest. You're too focused on the isolation or the sadness that has kind of preceded the things that have been going on. So there may be this part of you that's like, no, I'm over it. I'm good, blah, 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 while not understanding that there is a lot of grief that needs to be processed. And that is why the Four of Swords is kind of saying you need to take some time out to grieve. You need to take some time out to really allow yourself to see what has actually been physically going on with you and how you truly feel about the things that are happening here. I think that this is a reminder that maybe you're neglecting your body, you're neglecting your mental health, you're neglecting to just take that step back and kind of come back into what it is that you really need. So maybe you've been feeling a little bit like, oh, I don't know if I can take a break, or I'm too busy, or I'm too that, or I, have been being called into so many different directions. I don't really know what my foundation is here. Like you're overthinking it. And again, there is a sense of like not taking time out to really give time the time that it needs and for it to really alchemize and do what it's trying to do. So there is a little bit of the sense of like, I'm trying to make this work. I've done all the steps. I've done all the things. Why am I not better? Why am I not improving? Now, next to that, we have Temperance, which is a reminder of balance. And it's also a reminder of alchemy, but not in the sense of like the magician, if that makes sense. This is more of like bringing a balance between two very different things. It's harmony. It's very much like taking that time out to kind of bring things together. And I think it's interesting because this is the card of Sagittarius, and we just had the full moon in Sagittarius on Thursday last week. And so it's very much this kind of energy of like, okay, what is this full moon alchemizing for you? What are the two different things that are happening here? Because we also just had Jupiter move into Gemini on Saturday, the 25th. And so we're kind of given this opportunity to look at, okay, what needs to expand? What needs to grow? What needs to change? And Jupiter is a planet of expansion, of belief, of travel, of growth. And I think with Temperance here, it's more saying like, okay, maybe you need to find the balance so that these things can grow. It's like, I can't just leave a seed on my counter and expect it to grow. It needs to have the right balance of everything that it needs in order for it to kind of take root and actually grow. And Temperance is very much that same sort of energy of really recognizing that There are things within ourselves that maybe we need to balance. Maybe we need to find a better harmony. Maybe there's two different things where like we have to just have a little bit of patience as those things continuously kind of take root. Now, this being the second major card here, I do feel like there's a lot of transformation that is trying to take place. And I think the Temperance card is maybe a reminder of, as these things are coming together, we have to understand that like we've done what we needed to, but maybe we haven't really given it patience to have it actually grow into something. And finally, I have the Two of Pentacles, which is, again, always a card of like finding that balance between the physical things that we're doing in our day-to-day lives. So this could be our career. This could be our physical health. It could be our physical home. Maybe we've been kind of neglecting certain aspects of this. And so now we're like, oh my gosh, I need to hurry up and get everything back into balance because I can't bring in some of the healing that I'm looking for. Or it's been hard for me to kind of make things happen because I feel like there's a little bit of a hesitation or a slowdown between what's been happening. And the Two of Pentacles is just a reminder that we can't always juggle everything. That's not how humans are designed. There's been all this research where like we really can't multitask. We may think that we can, and I've always said I'm a very good multitasker, but I've come to recognize and realize that we haven't. And I wanted to pull one extra card as clarification. Is the Seven of Pentacles. Again, we're just kind of waiting. And I think this is a card that I pulled last week, like Sunday, for my pick a card on my Astrology and Angel Mediums or Astrology Angel Mediums Instagram account, where it's like a static post. And so I feel like right now we're having to choose, we're having to kind of bring that harmony. We're having to kind of be like, okay, what do I want to focus on? What is it that is going to be priority right now? How can I bring that into balance? Whether that's like our physical health, our career, our money, our like day-to-day lives may be requiring a lot of us like taking that time out to kind of pick and choose what we need. And that's why we have this like Seven of Pentacles, which is very much about recouping, reinvesting, awaiting results, kind of like being very patient as things that we have planted get ready for us to be able to harvest them. And so it feels very much like just a lot of, again, patience. Patience is needed. We don't really have the entire picture, no matter how quick we may have come to the decision to make things happen. We're not taking the time out to kind of honor what we need and take a rest or take a break. I'm going to take a drink actually, to kind of get back into understanding. Maybe we're too focused on, oh, everything I need to do, or everything that I'm missing, or everything that hasn't really worked for me. And so Temperance is kind of here saying, okay, we're kind of bringing these two different things into balance. And as we do that, there's other things that we need to understand, that we ourselves also have to make that space. We also have to be receptive to the things that are trying to change. And in that process, we do what we can, and then we just wait for things to kind of fall where they're supposed to and to come together the way that they're supposed to. It's hard, don't get me wrong. It is. I'm a Taurus, and I'm still not as patient as I would like to be. So I think it's more of just kind of like waiting for things to come together. So unfortunately, right now, it may feel like you're not making a lot of progress in some ways, or there may be a sense of like just kind of holding back and just having to kind of like pause and wait and see what is going on. Now, if we move on to the oracle cards I pulled, we have Vibras, which is just vibes, which is, feel to see things. This is about flowing. This is about healing ourselves at this current moment. Like the Four of Swords is saying, we have to kind of like have personal ceremony, like the Four of Swords is requiring us to do, to kind of take that step back and take care of ourselves, bring these two elements together. It's like that kind of theory of, oh, you're trying to manifest these things, but like where in your life do you still need some healing so that you can allow these things to happen, so you can have the belief that these things can happen for you. So it's very much about like that high vibration really coming together to kind of understand and comprehend what maybe needs to shift, what needs to change, what is kind of missing at this current moment in your life, so that things can really fall into place the way that they're supposed to. Now, next up, we have Wild Woman, Free, which I think that this is maybe just kind of saying like, when is the last time you cut loose? When's the last time you kind of allowed yourself to really be the magical being that you need to be? While you're waiting, you can still have fun. It serves no one to, it's like, what is that saying? Like, a watch pot never boils. So it's like, there's no sense in just kind of sitting there and like, oh my God, when is this going to change? It's more of just like, how can you have fun? How can you just cut loose and celebrate and enjoy and kind of get around things that feel healing and balancing for you? Whether it's just really recognizing that there is this beautiful divine energy within yourself that's wanting to kind of grow and become what it needs to be. And I think it's interesting. We have Wild Woman and we have the King of Swords. I would definitely say that they are definitely on opposite sides of the spectrum. And I think maybe that's why Temperance is here to kind of tell you, all right, with the Two of Pentacles, okay, we have to bring these two sides of ourselves into balance. The logical, analytical, just like justice and empowerment and fairness, and just rigid, with the Wild Woman that's just kind of out doing her own thing and cannot be tamed and cannot be tied down. So I think it's very much this energy of bringing those two elements into form and really doing something with it so that you can see some progression and some growth and some connection to what it is that you need. Now, next to that, we have a New Life. I think it's interesting because I feel like New Life can also be very much tied to the energy of the Seven of Pentacles, because we're like waiting, right? It's almost like we're just kind of in this phase of like, okay. But with New Life, I think it's also a reminder that a new life requires a lot of space, a lot of patience, a lot of time, a lot of nurturing. And so right now, it may feel like things are not really growing the way that you want them to, or things are maybe not moving quite as quickly as you would like for them to. But maybe that's why we have divine timing, because this new life is shifting. It's taking a lot of energy for it to really take root and to start feeling more established in your life. And divine timing is just a reminder that we don't really get a say in how things work, or when they're going to work, or how they're going to work in our lives. We may feel we have some control over certain things, but I can guarantee that more than likely there's been maybe at least one situation, one circumstance, one kind of time in your life where you felt like no matter how much you try to control it, something else would happen outside of that, good or bad. It's not about just focusing on the things that have gone wrong. I think it's also about looking at, how many accidental things had to happen for something to go right. And divine timing is very much a reminder of, we don't really get a say in how things are going to work out for us, or how and when we will receive the things that like we have felt that we've put a lot of effort into. And I think with Temperance and the Two of Pentacles, we're getting that kind of energy of like, we have to kind of surrender to the timing of the universe and the timing of Creator, the timing of Source, and just recognizing that we can just set the stage and we can make the room for those things to come together and happen, but we have to just surrender and just let it go and just let it be what it needs to be. Finally, we have Do Not Play the Victim, which I think that this is more of a reminder of maybe not being so in your head about, I tried to do this and it's not working. I haven't really had the time to do what I need to do, and like nobody really gets me. Or, every time I try something, it's like I have to be patient and I'm so tired. I'm always patient. It's one thing to be like patient and really surrendering to the process, and another to be like, I'm being patient and sitting there just like tapping your foot and your leg, and just like, when's my turn? There's a difference between that. And I think that's the biggest thing with this energy here with this card, is that it's really kind of telling you like, quit trying to make it a catastrophe that things haven't come together the way that you thought they were going to, or, you know, recognizing that by being in this kind of sense of like, oh, everything's always hard, everything's always challenging, things never like go the way that I want them to, it makes it hard for us to kind of focus on the good things that are trying to happen, the changes, the spiritual lessons that have kind of come from this, of recognizing our, and it's not weakness in the sense of like something's wrong. Like we all have strengths and we all have parts of ourselves that maybe are not as strong. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a part of being a human person. But I think with this, it's more of recognizing the crossroads and the spiritual lessons that we've kind of been met with, that they are here to help us overcome. They're here to teach us. They're here to help us experience something that maybe our soul really truly needs. And a lot of us look at it as like it's a deficit in character or a deficit in who we are. And I think with this new life and divine timing, they're almost saying like the new life that you want is coming, but it's not going to be on your terms, and it's not going to come at your timing and like within your like time frame of what you think should be happening. But that doesn't mean that it's not going to happen, or that, you know, you are being kind of forced into a situation that is no longer beneficial for you. So it's not so much about playing the victim, but maybe it's that kind of victim language of, oh, this is so hard. Oh, this is so challenging. I'm always struggling. I needed to hear this too right now. So I'm kind of sitting here like, oh gosh, of being very much in our heads about, oh, these things have not been working for me. So obviously this is going to be challenging and unfun. All right. So a little bit of that. Let's see what we have with these guys. It's going to be a little loud for a second. Give me a moment. All right, we got one. Oh, same one. And I think we need this one too. I don't think I want that one. All right, so very first one that came out was the ring. Now, this can talk about commitments, engagements, partnerships, relationships. Now, with this being a male's ring, this is almost saying like, what within you, whether it's like the logical, analytical, dominating aspects, have you been trying to commit yourself to that maybe you haven't really focused on? Maybe you haven't really given yourself an opportunity to say, okay, like, this is what I'm going to commit to. This is what means something to me. This is what I want. And I think with this, it's more of a reminder of recognizing that it's okay for us to look at what we've committed to in the past and maybe kind of renegotiating the terms of that, if that makes sense, or whether it's a reminder of not everything that we've committed to into the past has to be something that we continuously take with us into the future. And I'm only saying that because we have this little chicken bone, which is about just cleaning it up. Cleaning up some of our commitments, cleaning up some of our partnerships, cleaning up some of the things that we feel tied to that maybe no longer work for us, as well as recognizing that maybe now we have a sense of clarity. We're seeing things a little bit better. We're past the limitations that maybe kept us from really seeing the truth. But we do have the sword upside down, which to me can just be a reminder that we're not really using our words or connecting and communicating in the most effective way. Maybe we're just kind of too much in the head, and maybe with the do not play the victim, it's very much that. It's like, okay, stop victimizing yourself continuously in your head about the things that you did or didn't do, or how things haven't gone. And maybe that's why we have the mirror, which is, again, this is self-reflection. It's a reminder of taking that time out to kind of look at ourselves and see, what stories have we been telling ourselves? How are we speaking to ourselves? What has been reflected in those situations? And maybe that's why we have this sword reverse, where it's kind of saying like, hey, you're kind of turning this to yourself versus cutting away from anything that has been holding you back and keeping you hostage. So I hope that you enjoyed that. If you have any questions or any comments, let me know down below. What did you think? I really appreciate you spending some time with me today. Have a good one. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hello, pile number 3. Thank you so much for being here with me. I want to see what we have for you. I've already shuffled everything, so let's see what cards we have for you and what the message is today. So many major cards. My goodness. Okay. Well, let's see. I don't think I want this one reversed, and I don't think I want this one reversed. But I think these two, okay. I think we got it. All right, got vortex. We're just going to pull everything that we want. You know what? I feel like I need this one too. Oh, that's funny. Okay, I guess you guys are getting a bunch of extra cards. Let's see. Inspired idea. I'm going to run out of space. I was trying to do it to where we could see everything. Okay. So I think I have everything that I need right now. So the very first card we have here is going to be the Lovers reversed. So I feel like this is really saying that maybe you're not aligned with things that you actually love. Maybe there's been a lack of feeling that sense of alignment and things really working out the way that you want. Or there may even be a little bit of a hesitation to really choose what it is that you want in your life currently. So there may be kind of this like stepping back, maybe reflecting on some of your relationships, maybe feeling a little bit disconnected from what's been going on and what you're feeling, as well as maybe feeling a little bit of a sense of wanting to redirect some of this energy, and hopefully everything's in frame and doesn't look all crazy. Okay. And so it may just feel a little bit like there is this sense of wanting to figure out like who you are, what you want, what you need. The Lovers can really talk about relationships and connections, but to me, it's really that focus of really choosing what we want. Now, it's interesting because the Lovers is also the ruler of Gemini. We're currently in Gemini season, so the Lovers reverse can just be a like, hey, things are not really going the way that you anticipated. Maybe there's been a little bit of a holdback on certain things. And so there is a little bit of this sense of trying to pay attention to what is going on with you versus like looking at how that looks for everyone around you in your life and what's kind of going on around the external kind of happenings at the current moment. So next to that, we have the Empress reverse, which to me is just kind of saying, again, maybe there's a lack of nurturance, of a lack of abundance right now, a lack of like that movement momentum of really kind of stepping fully into like the divine feminine within yourself. And it doesn't mean that like if you're a masculine person that you have to be like feminine. It's more of just like that sense of like taking care of yourself, nurturing, kind of building the world around you to look like what it is that you need. Now, the Empress is also very much about creativity and fertility and really stepping fully into those elements within yourself. And so maybe right now you haven't really been making some of the choices that really nurture you in ways that you need. Maybe there's a lack in some way that is just not really cohesive. Maybe there's a sense of not really finding that connection in different ways. And so I feel like, especially with all these major cards, so this may be just a very like important time for you as far as like what it is that you really need to pay attention to and what it is that you value at this current moment. Because next to that, we have the Star. Now, the Star is all about hope and inspiration and our sense of faith, our sense of direction. This is what happens, and this is the car that precedes the Tower, which is everything breaking down. So this is almost saying like, oh, okay, everything has kind of fallen apart, and now you may be stepping a little bit more into trusting that you have exactly what you need. It's very much about finding the light in the darkness and figuring out who you are, what you need, what you want, and not being so caught up in maybe the old stories, maybe the old kind of fears that maybe you had at one point in time. And I think with having the Lovers and the Empress behind it to kind of push a little bit of this energy is that maybe there have been some disappointments or some things that haven't really worked out the way that you thought they were going to. Maybe there's been a lack of that abundance and momentum and movement that you were seeking out. And so now the Star is here to kind of tell you like, okay, things are finally going to start shifting. Things are going to finally start moving. But it is going to require a lot of hope and faith on your behalf, and to kind of really figure out, what do you believe in? What do you want? What are you looking for within your life and within what it is that you need? Excuse me. And then after that, we have the Hermit, which to me is really about seeking out your own wisdom. It is very much about taking a step back, kind of finding that light within yourself. And I think it's interesting to have the Star and then the Hermit, because I feel like both of these cards this is more like self-initiated. The Star is more of like circumstances around you that are making you look at the things that are happening around you that maybe make you question what it is that you believe in. And whenever we start questioning those things, I think it's important to take a step back and kind of look at who we are, what we believe in, what our wisdom is within ourselves, and as well as like what the story is with that. So I think the Hermit is kind of a reminder for you that even if things haven't really come together the way that you thought they were going to, or if there's been some disappointments, or even a sense of you've tried to put in the effort, but things just have not worked out. The Hermit is kind of a coming back to yourself, a reminder that it's okay to seek out your own self, to seek out your own wisdom, to look at who you are and what it is that you need, as well as really understanding that the Hermit is kind of seen as like a fringe member of society, like kind of living on the fringes of society, not really being involved too much. And so maybe this is a reminder that you need to maybe step away from certain things that have not been bringing you the happiness or the stability that you've been looking for. Because next to that, we have the Ten of Cups, which I feel is very much this card of like really finding your happiness, all of your wishes really coming true because you've put in the effort. And so everything is finally shifting and moving in the direction of what you need. And maybe that's why you need to have this sense of realizing what you believe in, what it is that you want, where your hopes lay, and then also reconnecting a little bit more to this energy of finding that balance within yourself while also recognizing your personal truth and seeking out your personal wisdom so that you can find that happiness in your life and find the things that make you happy, find the connections and relationships that are supportive of you, really start trusting your intuition a little bit more because you've sought out your own lantern. And excuse me, I think that this is really just kind of an invitation for you to reconnect to the things that really bring you joy. And finally, for the tarot cards is the Four of Cups reversed. Now, this to me is always a card of like discontent, like we're so focused on like what we think like we want. So there's like boredom, there's like this sense of, oh, woe is me, things haven't really worked out the way that I thought they were going to. But this being reversed is almost saying like maybe you've overcome some of these thought patterns that were maybe holding you back, or maybe you've kind of come to realize like, oh, things didn't work out the way that I wanted in certain relationships and connections, or I didn't really get to have the nurturance that I was looking for in some of my connections. But that's okay, because I can celebrate the good things. I can seek out my own wisdom and see that I actually really didn't need to settle and kind of tie myself to things that really weren't a good foundation for me in different ways. And I think the Four of Cups is just kind of a reminder for you that there's something that you're coming to the realization of like, I'm so glad that it didn't work out because it put me exactly where I needed to be, or it removed certain things out of my life that have allowed me to make space for the things that for so long I really didn't realize I actually wanted. And so now these things are finally coming true. My wishes are being fulfilled because I've done the hard work and I've kind of reinstated who I am and realized what it is that I need to be doing. So I think the Four of Cups reversed is maybe just a reminder for you to kind of look at everything that you've done, everything that you've accomplished, how hard you've worked, and then also kind of giving yourself permission to celebrate that it's okay that maybe at one point you were kind of sad or disconnected or feeling a little bit disjointed with the choices and kind of things that were happening in your life, and maybe kind of feeling like, oh, I really wanted these things, or I really thought this was the thing for me. But now you've come to the realization of like, even if that was something that I really wanted and felt like I needed, it's not really what is in alignment with what my soul is asking for and kind of urging me out to do. And that isn't something that is going to lead me into the right things or giving me what I really desire. So I hope that makes sense. I'm going to move on to all of these oracle cards I got. I think it's interesting. I got this inspired idea card. And whenever I get this, I feel like it's very much a reminder of looking at our creativity. And I feel like that's very much like this hermit kind of energy too. And the star, where it's kind of telling us like, okay, let's get back into creating. Let's get back into allowing ourselves to expand how we perceive things and how we're viewing things and what we're doing with that energy, and kind of stepping out of routine and maybe even like blockages that we've kind of held on to that maybe no longer make sense. And I think maybe with this like Four of Cups reversed, it's kind of saying like, okay, we're pouring that back into ourselves. So what is coming forth from like the lessons that we've experienced, from the things that maybe didn't work out the way that we wanted. So maybe this has been like an internalized creative period for you, where you're just kind of ruminating over what it is that you're trying to do moving forward. And so now we're getting like the kind of like comeuppance, so to speak, of everything really coming together and finding that inspiration again, and really being more connected to what it is that we want and what it is that we need. Next to that, we have Vortex, which is all about accessing portals. It can talk about astral travel, raising your vibration, elevating your ancestors, and this is all about lessons learned as well. Now, when I think of this energy, I feel like it's very much about reconnecting to that divine kind of energy within ourselves. When I think of vortexes, I mean, there's like physical places you can go to that are vortexes, but I feel like vortexes are like a concentration of energy. And maybe this is a reminder for you to look at like, where have you been concentrating your energy? Where is that portal leading you in your life? Whether it's like, oh, I'm going to, really be creative, and I'm really going to be doing some different things and really like putting myself out there in some new ways. Maybe this is like, okay, a portal is like a doorway, right? So it's almost saying like, what is this doorway taking, like, where is it taking you to? What is this opening up within you? What is it that like is trying to kind of be established here? And what lessons have been brought to the surface here? Like, what things have you learned? What sort of ways is this like healing for yourself and also for your ancestral lineage? What is it that maybe you need to take with you moving forward so that you continuously invoke and regenerate the sort of energy that you've been looking for? And I like that there's all these moons up here, because I feel like it's very much about like those phases, and they're all full, right, in different like time periods. So it's almost saying like maybe right now you've been like doing all this work that you're like, oh, I'm full here. And so like it's almost like you're getting to a point where like you're feeling this like sense of fullness, this sense of completion, this sense of illumination, but then you're also still waiting for like all of those phases to kind of come together and make sense. And I think that's a big thing here, is to just be very mindful of nurturing yourself in the ways that you need, because we have the cactus as well. So I feel like it's very much about nurturing yourself and kind of building that community around you as you kind of project into the future. And I think with sea otter kinship, I think that's why we need that community. We need that connection. We need that foundational essence of really realizing who we are as individuals and what that means for us as a collective. And with kinship, it's more of just recognizing what sort of relationships are coming into your life, who's supporting you, who's showing up with you, who is here with you to kind of experience the different things that you're trying to do. Now, Orca records, I feel like this may have to do with like that vortex, kind of recognizing the ancestral magic within ourselves, the ancestral lineage that maybe needs some healing. I feel like this is also accessing the different things within ourselves. There's also the Akashic records that we can reference with this energy here, where maybe it's kind of a reminder that we need to seek out things within ourselves that maybe have been put to the side or have been long forgotten, or maybe there is an invitation here to look at other information outside of what we've always known and what we feel is the only truth in this situation. Next to that, we have home, which I think is more of just recognizing what your home base is. It's what feels at home for you, whether it's being at home within yourself, in your life, in your relationships, in your circumstances. I think that it's very much a reflection of kind of taking a step back, like the hermit, and kind of figuring out like, what is your sacred direction to you? And what does that mean for you overall? Like, are you taking the time out to connect to that? Are you making time to prioritize what you may need? And maybe that's why the Empress reverse is kind of saying like, we need to nurture ourselves. We need to kind of be creative and kind of connect with what we need first so that we can show up and give others what they're looking for. And the Ten of Cups is always a card that's related to happy home, like happy home, happy life, happy, like happiness, just like celebrating, connecting. And I feel like looking at our home base, looking at our relationships, those relationships where we feel at home, that may also be an important thing to take into consideration at this time. Now, next to that, we have guides, which again, this is just kind of telling you like, you don't have to do all of these things by yourself. You don't have to feel like you don't have a team to access to help you and to like really connect into and say, hey, I need help with this, or hey, how can I feel more at home in these relationships with my guides, whether they're ancestral, whether they are, the people, the kinships that I'm creating, whether it's, the like supportive kind of love that I have around me. I think it's very much about looking at who is guiding you, how are you allowing yourself to be guided, what is it that is actually speaking to you at this time, and how can you connect a little bit more to that so that you're not feeling disconnected or feeling a little bit groundless at this current moment, because it feels like a lot of these big shifts and changes, especially with having 4 major cards out of the 6 that I pulled. Obviously, there's some big transitions, some big things that have been happening, and it's going to feel very ungrounding whenever we're going through these big shifts and these big changes, and we feel like we're being kind of like bitten on all sides, so to speak. And so it can feel very challenging to kind of move back into, okay, I need to ground myself, and I also need to find my guides. I need to find who can assist me with this, who can take over the things that maybe I've been hanging on to that are no longer beneficial for me. And finally, out of the Oracle cards, I have take back your power by putting your needs first. I think that this is just a reminder that maybe you have not been prioritizing what you really need. And I think this goes really back to this like Empress reverse card and the Lovers reverse. It's almost saying like, you're not in love with the life that you have. You're not aligning yourself with things that you want and that you need. And so there's been a lack of nurturance. There's been a lack of creativity. There's been a lack of being able to feel at home in yourself, or a lack of allowing yourself to have support and kinship so that you can have these inspired ideas and connect a little bit more to this energy. And so maybe you have been kind of feeling like you're up in this like vortex of like, what is happening? Who am I? What's going on? What do I need? What's a lot of different questions. And I feel like this is just a reminder to take back your power by, putting your needs first and reconnecting with yourself a little bit more, and not being distracted by the externals or the things that are kind of happening around you. All right. So I'm going to kind of grab a couple of these things out of here. Let's see what we have. All right. Got quite a few, actually. The very first thing is the puzzle piece. Whenever I get this, I feel like it's very much about recognizing that we're not meant to fit in. And maybe for too long, you've been shrinking yourself down, trying to make yourself fit into pieces and places that don't really make sense for who you are and what's been going on. Sorry, I needed a drink of water. So right now I can just really feel like maybe you're missing, like you're looking for where to fit in. Maybe you feel a little bit disconnected and discombobulated in the sense of like, what do I want? What do I need? What does this mean? How can I show up for myself in different things? And I think the biggest thing with the puzzle piece is that it's almost a reminder that we're not here to just fit in anywhere. We have a specific place that is for us. And sometimes we're so busy trying to like force things that it makes us so uncomfortable, and it makes us feel very disconnected from who we are. Now, it's interesting because we had the star and we have another star here with the moon. So I feel like it's more of like looking at your hopes, looking at your faith, looking at what is inspiring you, and then also being connected to your intuition, connected to that part of yourself. I think this is a mood ring one because it's turning green. And I feel like this is very much this kind of energy of really recognizing that by connecting to our intuition, by nurturing ourselves, by kind of connecting to who we are and what we want. I'm seeing if it'll all turn green, or if I'm just like seeing it turn green. If it's allowing us to really show up in that energy, my hands are cold, so it's like probably not going to turn green. But I feel like with the moon there, it's almost saying like, honor your phases, honor what you need while you're kind of in this sense of what you believe in and who you are, and recognize that it's okay to change what you're believing in and what you're connected to, and what is inspiring you. These are things that I think some of us tend to forget as we're going through life, that it's okay for us to say, okay, now I am plugged into this, or now this is something that makes sense for me. And because of that, I feel that's why we have the jawbone here, which is all about communication, using our voice, using our thoughts, our creativity, and connecting with others with our voice. That can be through writing, that can be through speaking, that can be through singing. There's so many different ways for us to connect and communicate with others. It's very much about bringing thought into form. And I think that's the big thing here. It's saying, bring those thoughts into form, connect in that way. Don't feel afraid to say what you need to say, that is in a way that is going to speak your truth, that is inspiring, that allows you to find that happiness, that allows you to kind of remove yourself from like a level of discontent from relationships and connections that are no longer in alignment. And I think that's why we also have the sword here, because this is almost saying, get clear with your thoughts. Stop overanalyzing, stop overthinking. This is very much about like the sword of justice, of just cutting and clearing away from anything that has been holding you back, anything that has just not been working for you, really showing up in this energy of saying, all right, that's enough. I'm going to cut away from anything that does not make sense for who I am and what I want. Now, I did get this lantern reversed. So it's interesting because the Hermit also has a lantern. This being reversed, I feel like it's almost saying like, maybe you've been dimming your light. Maybe you've been afraid to show up in your true self. And so maybe you're like still kind of trying to shine your light in the darkness of the things that are currently happening, or where you feel blocked in different ways. And I think it's more of a reminder of just, it's a lantern, right? So it's a simple way of creating light. And maybe it's telling you to just keep it simple. As you're shining a light on these things, keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't overthink it. Don't feel obligated to do something with the things that you're shining a light on. And maybe that's why we have this little cacao bead. Oh my God, what the hell? A cacao pod. I can't freaking talk today. And I feel like this is heart medicine. This is about connecting to the things that feel luxurious and rich and divine to you, things that are good for your heart, things that are like heart medicine for you in so many different ways, instead of questioning yourself so much and doubting what you've been feeling and what you have. And so maybe it's a reminder to take that time, especially if you've been feeling like you don't really fit in, like you're trying to kind of find your sense of hope and faith here, like you're trying to communicate your truth, and also learning how to cut away from old stories that no longer make sense for who you are, while also shining a light on things and not feeling obligated to do something with that. So I hope that this makes sense. I want to say thank you for letting me do this reading for you. If you have any questions or any comments, let me know down below. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a good one. Bye.